The story of the sixth building begins in a small, sleepy town, where the locals avoid speaking about the old, abandoned structure at the edge of town. Known only as the sixth building, it had once been a thriving apartment complex, home to families, artists, and professionals. But about 30 years ago, it was mysteriously closed down. No one knew why. Some said it was due to a fire. Others spoke of strange disappearances. But the official reason was that it was structurally unsound and unsafe. Despite its desolation, the building still stood, looming over the town, a symbol of the unknown. The strange thing about the sixth building was that no one ever seemed to have a clear memory of who lived there before. Any attempt to ask previous residents yielded vague answers. "I don't remember," "I moved away," or simply, "I never lived there." Over time, stories about the building grew darker. The most chilling was the legend of the sixth floor. According to town folklore, the building had 6 floors, but the sixth was never visible from the outside. No one who ever entered the building was sure of what was on the sixth floor because nobody who had gone up there had ever come back. It was said that the sixth floor wasn't just a physical space. It was a place between worlds. Those who ventured up there were never seen again, or if they were different, their minds broken or their eyes filled with an unexplainable fear. One evening, a group of friends, 3 curious students from the local college, decided to investigate the sixth building. They had heard the stories, but were determined to find out the truth for themselves. Armed with flashlights and a sense of invincibility, they entered the building after dark, undeterred by the eerie silence that seemed to hang in the air. The lobby was cold, dimly lit by a few flickering lights. The walls were cracked, and the floor was covered in dust, but the elevator still worked, its old mechanical hum filling the space. They pressed the button for the 6th floor, laughing nervously as the elevator creaked and groaned, ascending. The air grew thick and heavy as the doors slowly opened on the 6th floor. The moment they stepped out, the atmosphere shifted. Something was off. The hallway was unnaturally dark, and the walls seemed to pulsate with an odd energy. The floorboards creaked under their feet, and strange, distant sounds echoed down the corridors, like whispers, or perhaps the faint murmur of voices from another time. Suddenly, one of the friends, Anna, pointed to a door at the end of the hallway. It looked different from the others, old, worn, but oddly inviting. Despite the unease gnawing at them, they walked toward the door. As they approached, the whispers grew louder. Anna reached out to open it, but as soon as her hand touched the doorknob, everything stopped. The hallway fell silent, and the temperature dropped drastically, their breaths visible in the freezing air. Before anyone could react, the door swung open on its own, revealing a room that was not what they expected. The room was impossibly vast, stretching far beyond the confines of the building itself. The walls appeared to be made of glass, but beyond them was only a swirling, dark void, like the inside of a storm. In the center of the room stood an old, cracked mirror, reflecting nothing but the void behind it. One of the friends, Mark, stepped forward, drawn to the mirror. As his fingers grazed the surface, he froze, his reflection not matching his movements. His face in the mirror grinned eerily, and the reflection began to distort, elongating, shifting into something unrecognizable. Panic set in as the room seemed to close in around them. The door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Anna screamed as the air grew thick, oppressive. Suddenly, the floor beneath them began to tremble, and the walls seemed to close in. They ran, desperately trying to escape, but no matter where they turned, The hallway stretched on, impossibly long, like a labyrinth without an exit. In their frantic escape, they reached the elevator again. But when they pressed the button to go down, the elevator doors didn't open. Instead, they heard footsteps approaching from the shadows, slow and deliberate. The friends turned to face whatever was coming, but the figure that emerged was not human. It was a tall, shadowy figure with hollow eyes, its face obscured by a hooded cloak. The figure did not speak, but merely pointed to the elevator, as if beckoning them to follow. Terrified, the friends backed into the elevator, and as the doors closed, they felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The elevator descended, but when it reached the ground floor, it was not the same building. The lobby was completely different, darker, older, as if they had traveled back in time, or worse, into another dimension. The doors opened, but outside was not the familiar town they had known. The streets were empty, and the buildings were silent. The friends stepped out, unsure of where they were or how to return. They found themselves trapped in a world that was an eerie reflection of their own. The sixth building still stands today, but no one dares to enter. Those who went in never returned the same. Some say they never returned at all. The sixth floor remains a mystery, a place where time and space seem to twist, where reality is as fragile as the flickering lights in the old building's corridors. And the figure that watches from the shadows, it is said to wait for the next curious souls who might come seeking the truth and get more than they bargained for.